Get started. We have a full agenda today, and again, thank you all for taking time out of your schedule to attend and learn more as part of CTIC's ongoing webinar series. This one today is the technology tools and grower-based approaches for implementing effective conservation, presented by Syngenta. And just real quickly, I want to introduce myself. My name is Ryan Heiniger. I am the Executive Director for the Conservation Technology Information Center. We're a 42-year-old nonprofit headquartered in West Lafayette, Indiana. And I work remotely and also farm here in Southeast Iowa. We are very excited for this webinar today, in part because it really further kind of plants some seeds and gives people some insights as to what they're going to be learning more about at our rapidly approaching 17th Annual Conservation in Action Tour coming up June 10th and 11th, and I'll talk more about that. And today I'm joined by Mary Sutton Carruthers, a Stewardship Manager with Syngenta and also a CTIC board member, Trent Wimmer, the Key Account Manager for Sustainability Solutions with Syngenta, and Parker Frew, Program Manager with Delta F.A.R.M, located in Mississippi. And for those of you that have a long history with CTIC, you may remember that Delta F.A.R.M was even a co-host of our 2012 Conservation in Action Tour that was held at the end of May that particular year. And before I turn things over to Mary Sutton, just a couple quick items. Again, this webinar is being recorded and it will be sent out to everybody that did register. Again, please go ahead and drop information in the chat along with Q&A questions. We will wait until the presentations are done, and then Callie North from CTIC will help moderate the Q&A dialogue with the panelists. So for those of you not familiar with CTIC, we're a member-based nonprofit 501c3 organization, actually originally founded as the Conservation Tillage Information Center, working throughout the ag sustainability sector, working closely with agribusiness, commodity groups, conservation organizations. We're governed by a 17-member board of directors, and like I mentioned, Mary Sutton is one of those leaders. And again, working in this ag sustainability space, as I like to best describe it, way before it was in vogue like it is today, which is a wonderful thing that there's so much activity happening to, again, support farmers, ranchers, and others to improve their environmental footprint. Certainly, if anybody has an interest in collaborating, certainly joining CTIC, always interested in talking with folks on how we can do more to leverage resources, leverage insights, and expertise. Just a quick snapshot and recognition for our members that make our mission possible, many of which go back not only in years of support, but decades of commitment to the organization. And we also work with a variety of folks across, again, the CPG sector to government, academia, and many others to, again, look for ways to impact resources at that local level, and at the same time tracking progress through a number of different projects, such as our operational tillage information system as one of the flagships with Regrow and the Nature Conservancy, among many others. Just a quick snapshot of some upcoming events to bring to your attention, one of which is a new series that CTIC rolled out this winter with great success called the Cover Crop Cocktail Virtual Hour, where it's designed for farmers, advisors, and others who want to learn and share information, perhaps even enjoying a beverage in the evening hours. So we just started this back up after running January, February, March, started back up at the 1st of May. It's held every 2 weeks on Thursday evenings at 7 o'clock Central. Callie can drop the registration link into the chat for more information on that. I mentioned the Conservation in Action Tour coming up in Memphis and in Northeast Arkansas. And then one of our ongoing Farmers for Soil Health webinar series, July 18th, with a focus on cover crops and the ROI that can come from adding livestock back into the operation. So just a little bit more of a teaser information on the upcoming conservation tour. Memphis will be our host city for just ease of airport transportation for a lot of people that do come from across the country to attend. So officially we'll kick off Monday night with a reception, social, and dinner program at the famous B.B. King's Blues Club on Beale Street, just down the road from our host hotel, the Hyatt Centric. And then we'll spend all day Tuesday, June 11th, out visiting 3 exceptional farms that include Ellis Bell near Forest City, Scott Matthews up by Wiener, Arkansas, and then coming back around closer to the Mississippi River, Travis Settner and the Holt House Farm Partnership operation near Osceola. And then we'll kind of put a cap on the tour with a nice social and reception up on the rooftop bar and patio at the Hyatt Centric from 5 to 7. So registrations are still open, and we'll have some more information on that shortly. And like anything we do, it's not possible without our supporters. And so I want to just close this portion by, again, thanking Syngenta, Ducks Unlimited, Mosaic, and all the organizations listed there that make the tour possible and help keep the prices for registration very reasonable for people to attend. And the final thing I would just say is that for those not familiar with the tour, it is such a great melting pot of organizations and individuals from all across the conservation agriculture space. Again, commodity groups, agribusiness, CPGs, farmers, local agronomists, nonprofit leaders, representatives from federal and state governments as well. So would encourage you to take a look at your calendar and consider joining us June 10th and 11th in Memphis, Tennessee. With that, I would again like to reintroduce Mary Sutton Carruthers, a CTIC board member and representative from Syngenta.
Great. Thank you very much, Ryan. Thank you also, Callie, for working in the background to take questions from folks that we can address at the end. So welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today. Like Ryan said, I'm Mary Sutton Carruthers. I'm on the stewardship team at Syngenta, and I'm based out of our crop protection headquarters in Greensboro, North Carolina. I joined CTIC's board at the beginning of this year, but Syngenta has a long history with CTIC, including early support of that Operation Tillage Information Center system, which Ryan mentioned earlier, which uses satellite imagery to look at trends in conservation practices. And this information can help understand where practices like cover cropping and no-till are being implemented, can help identify areas of opportunity for increased adoption, and helps to quantify some of those soil health and ecosystem benefits on a large scale. So CTIC has been championing support of economically and environmentally beneficial ag systems for over 40 years, and that's very well aligned with Syngenta's focus on supporting farmers to achieve higher yields with lower impacts and to regenerate soil and nature. So it's a natural fit for us to support CTIC, and we've gotten just a lot of benefit from all the connections that they have, as you saw from Ryan's presentation. So one of the reasons we're here today is as a supporter of CTIC's Conservation and Action Tour. I hope to meet a lot of you there in person in June. The annual tour is definitely a highlight for members and stakeholders alike. It provides an opportunity for us to get out in the field, see how different growers are stewarding their lands, hear how it fits into their business model, and it provides a really good platform for discussing some of the challenges and opportunities of different conservation practices. I'm very excited for our speakers today, which include Trent Wimmer from Syngenta's sustainability team and Parker Frew with Delta F.A.R.M. They're going to speak to the tools and programs available to growers and others in the ag industry, whether you're a seasoned conservation practitioner or just want to understand what opportunities are out there that fit into your farming program or commodity value chain. So Trent, thank you very much for kicking things off for us, and thank you everyone for your time today.
Very good. Thank you, Mary Sutton. Let me share my screen quick. And feel free to interrupt me if something doesn't look right along the way. So, like Mary Sutton mentioned, my name is Trent Wimmer. I'm a key account manager for our sustainable and responsible business with Syngenta in North America. And even though Syngenta's typical customers are growers and the ag retailers that support them, Me and my team get to go beyond that. We get to work with processors, NGOs, consumer packaged goods companies to take a broader understanding of what's occurring at the field and the farm and help tell that story downstream. So today, what I hope to do for you is just to take us back at a really high level and ground us on why we're doing a lot of this work and why work like the CTIC is doing is so important today and moving forward. And I'll get into some of the tools that are available to measure and benchmark some of these new things that we're measuring. Obviously, Syngenta loves to talk about yield. That's one of our favorite topics, just like our customer. But we also need to be measuring practices, farm management decisions, and understanding how those things are moving the peg as we go into a new era of agriculture. So we'll cover some tools. And then once I'm done, we're going to pass it over to Parker to give us an understanding of on the ground, actual implementation, conservation, profitability, and growers at hand. So like I said, I wanted to start at a high level, and I think it's really important to ground us in the why here, because people, I think we tend to work too quickly on why are we doing these things? Why are they important? My kids are asking me questions at home. I sometimes don't know how to have that discussion. The world's evolving, and this is not new, and ag evolves with it. And I think it's really interesting to think about, because if you look back to 1800 is roughly 225 years ago. In 1800, ag hadn't been industrialized yet. There was no GPS, there was no genetics and traits outside of what they were doing on their own. And the world's population was 1 billion, a billion people in 1800. It took 120 years roughly to double that to 2 billion. Now, what happened there? Ag, the industrialization, the tractor was invented, all these great things that came to ag that we were able to help promote and grow our industry. But since 1800, we've gone from 1 billion to now 8 billion. And anytime we add more people, we add more people that have a need for water, a growing demand for water. We start losing our ability to find space for the biodiversity around us. So the habitat starts to disappear. And for every person we add, that's one more person that needs a home that we need to feed, that has the ability to emit greenhouse gases. And this is a real challenge. And this is a challenge for us moving forward. Now, the good news is ag plays a huge piece and a huge part of this story. And so, and why is that? So over the next 20 to 30 years, ag, of all the industries that have the ability to emit carbon or to use water, ag is the only one that can actually put carbon back in the ground at scale. It's via photosynthesis in plants. And so this move to regenerative agriculture, the idea of putting things back in place once we're done, this is not going away. It's going to grow, and we're going to need tools, and we're going to need collaboration. So these types of webinars we're doing today with the CTIC and partnering with Delta F.A.R.M and Syngenta, these are the way of the future, and we need tools and we need companies to step up to help fight these challenges, because farmers can't do it on their own. They need support, and that's why we're here. So just a quick touch on Syngenta. If you don't know, Syngenta is a multinational corporation. We are, let's see here, the latest number, 60,000 people big worldwide in 100 countries, excuse me, 60,000 people, 100 countries. But we do play in three main spaces. That is crop protection, seeds, and we've got a growing and evolving digital ag solution space. And this is why Syngenta finds this highly important, is as we move into this new era of agriculture, melding modern ag with regenerative ag, we need to have good products in place to support farmers. We need to make sure that it's supporting the environment and the biodiversity around it. And we're going to need tools to help measure and promote good practices to help not just our local farmers, but the broader ecosystem that we play in. Now, why is Syngenta a good partner here. I think it's important to call out our sustainability position. So we recently rolled out new sustainability priorities, and this is not new to Syngenta at all. So we actually were one of all of our peers, one of the leading companies to actually put our name forward when it came to a sustainability commitment. So in 2013, we rolled out something called our Good Growth Plan. And this was a vision, a broad vision to how agriculture can continue to support growers, not just in good products and services, but also being a good steward of the industry and the earth and the people that happen to live here. So this has been over 10 years in play, and we just recently renewed our sustainability priorities. And I just wanted to touch them really quick. If you haven't had a chance to hear about them, the first of the 4 pillars that we have, the first pillar is higher yields and lower impact. And that's accelerating crop productivity of the ag sector or reducing the impact on the planet through sustainable technologies. Now, this is not new, okay? So this is not a new thing. I would argue that our industry has been focused on this for decades, but we need to call out that we are focused in on continually improving our profitability of our growers, the productivity of their growers, using less and maximizing what we do use. So higher yields and lower impact is definitely a focus for our company today and moving forward into this new era of ag. Regenerate soil and nature. This is enabling the adoption of regenerative ag practices to farmers to improve productivity, soil health, biodiversity, and climate. With this new era, we need to make sure we're thinking forward and making sure that sustainability isn't just an economic discussion, it's an environmental and social discussion as well. And we're putting it at the forefront of our focus from our R&D teams through to the service that we provide growers. Improve rural prosperity. This is improving the prosperity of rural farmers by improving their access to inputs, knowledge, finance, and markets. This is where Syngenta's customers, for the most part, sit, and we need to meet them where they are. And if their farms are prosperous and their communities are prosperous, Syngenta is winning at the same time. We need to make sure we're supporting these initiatives. And lastly, sustainable operations. This is reducing the environmental impact of our own operations and our supply chain, strengthening our diverse and inclusive culture, and ensure the health and safety of our people. Like I said, this goes back 10 years, and we're stepping the gas down on what we can do from our Scope 1 and Scope 2 commitments, measuring these things and making sure we're moving forward, not just for ourselves, but for our industry. So we do want to talk about tools today and what's available to farmers. So I do want to take a slightly higher level before we dive straight into sustainability and soil health and the conservation around that. So Syngenta does have a family of tools available today. They are all focused in and around the farmer, because that is the person that we're hoping to engage with these tools and make their life a little easier, a little more efficient, and a little more profitable. So of the ones you see on the screen, I want to say that from a sustainability point of view, Syngenta has been in this space for probably 15 years. And what got us into this space was our old farm management software called LandDB. Now, if you haven't heard of LandDB, it was created over 20 years ago by a couple tobacco farmers in Western Kentucky that needed a better understanding of their inputs, what was going on in the field, what were the yields and the profitability. And that was really the groundwork of LandDB, our farm management software. But that has evolved. We're definitely beyond just a farm management software digital corporation. We offer a number of different tools. And we found out early on when sustainability metrics started to show their face and became prevalent that of these field level metrics that were being asked of growers, our tool had already captured 85% of the information. So we could add in crop rotation, we could add in tillage or soil aspects. And by doing so, suddenly we could run field to market field print calculations or Cool Farm Alliance's Cool Farm Tool field level greenhouse gas measurements. Now, we still do that today. but it is those field level calculations, or if anybody that's done that on the call, you know that's a heavy lift. You need a special tool like a farm management software to manage the data. It takes a special grower to try to provide that information. In Syngenta, we tend to call that the deep end of the pool, because anytime we wanted to talk sustainability, we push people into the deep end of the pool. And not everybody wants to jump in to the deep end of the pool. So we decided we needed an easier entry point for either someone that was just getting started in sustainability, or maybe had someone downstream of their crop that they were selling that needed some maybe higher level data, farm level data. And that's where Cropwise Sustainability was born. It's a simpler tool. We get information in 30 to 45 minutes from a producer, and it allows us to get a qualitative view of their practices and their management decisions. And it gives us a good starting place to have a discussion around soil health, sustainability, regenerative ag, and outcomes. So I'm going to spend a little bit more time discussing Cropwise Sustainability, what it is and how it works, and why it would be interesting, because this is just one tool that's available to producers today as we go through this new deeper understanding of conservation, carbon intensity, climate smart agriculture. There's all these things that continue to come forward, but at the end of the day, we do tend to be talking about similar topics regardless of the need from downstream partners. So let's just go a little deeper into what Cropwise Sustainability is. It is an app. It is available and free to farmers. Anybody can use it. You can download it from the App Store, or we also have it in Android. But this is a tool that was designed for farmers, and it was also a tool designed to make easy data capture to help tell a quick story for themselves and going downstream. Now, this is enabled by something we call our Sustainable Outcomes in Ag standard. This is a standard that was created by Syngenta, and it's publicly available. But this standard allows us to benchmark those growers amongst different outcomes and drivers that they are trying to measure. And it somewhat takes yield out of play. So I work for Syngenta. I'm not going to try to convince anybody that yield's not important. Like I mentioned earlier, it's our favorite topic. But there's days where we need to look at other means of other measurements, different ways to understand what's occurring at the farm, and this tool is designed to do that. And lastly, I do want to say that it wasn't created in a vacuum. So if a farmer is using it and to see how they benchmark against our Sustainable Outcomes in Ag standard, we've aligned it to several other sustainability and certification bodies to make it easier to share data and reduce some double entry. So on the right-hand side of the slide, you'll see that we've got SAI, so Sustainable Ag Initiative. They have their latest sustainability assessment, their FSA 3.0, which is, if you don't know who SAI is, they are a globally recognized regenerative ag certification. By using Cropwise Sustainability in our standard, you have the ability to achieve gold level equivalency for SAI in their most recent assessment. We've done a similar exercise with Walmart or the Sustainability Consortium and their thesis certification. And we also have added new functionality to give crop level carbon quantification, which I'll share a little bit more here towards the end of my talk. Now, for the people on the call, we're talking conservation in the CTIC. I did mention that we were trying to look beyond yield, and I want to give you a little quicker view inside of how Cropwise Sustainability and the SOA standard work. Because like I said, we find yield important, but it's not the only thing we should be measuring. So across the top of the screen, you see 6 different buckets. These are the 6 major outcomes that we do measure and benchmark against. So soil health, water impact, etc. And under each one of these, we have a series of drivers that impact that outcome score. So what we do is we ask the grower questions. As they answer, they fall into not a right or wrong bucket, but a leadership level bucket. So they either fall into essential, basic, medium, or high. And all this does is it allows us to meet the grower where they are and how they farm today, the practices they've implemented, etc. So by doing so, we can now quickly benchmark the growers in a given geography, growing a similar crop, and now tell a story that is not only measurable, but we can start to see trends, and we can start to tell a story both for the farm themselves and their partners. But most importantly, we can highlight where they're leading their peers, where they're actually leading the pack. And we can also highlight how to improve, because it'll give suggestions on how to improve where they may be lagging their peers. So just to give a flavor for the growers on the call, an understanding of what the ask is of using a tool like this. So as I do know there's other tools out there, but to use Cropwise Sustainability, and if we were to use this regenerative ag tool to measure outcomes, usually the hardest part of the exercise is the login. So the login occurs first, but once you're there, we will ask some high-level farm questions to get an understanding of where you're at, what you're growing, what's your rotation, etc., what other partners you may be working with. But then we'll ask a series of yes/no questions that you should be able to answer off the top of your head. It could be a check the box type of exercise. But after each section is complete, you will get a score back to our SOA standard of how you compare to the standard. And that's what you're seeing in the second to right-hand screenshot there, where this shows biodiversity and habitat with a medium score. It'll eventually roll up to an overall farms level score as well. And what else I wanted to say here was, so any farmer can do this. It's free to see how you score versus a standard. If you happen to be working with a partner, and it could be a retailer that's trying to differentiate their delivery and an understanding amongst their different locations, or you could be an ethanol facility with multiple ethanol plants and trying to get an understanding of how the growers are producing a crop in a given area, or it could be a consumer packaged goods company that wants a better understanding of the ingredients they're purchasing from their processors. All are actual live examples of people using this tool today. What's great about it is the person putting it in play, the partner, if a partner does come into play, they get to set the scale and the scope. So the outputs of the outcomes are much more meaningful for them because it makes sense in the geography and a crop they're growing. But the outcomes and the outputs for the growers are also added level of value to the outputs, because now they know who they're being compared to, not just some random benchmark that they're being told that they scored on. So just a quick, just a few more quick slides for me. I did want to show a view of the aggregated data. Now, why is the aggregated data important? We don't need to call out any certain farm. You know, all this data is anonymous, but by participating, we can start to see trends of how growers are growing a given crop in a given geography. Now, they may all score high, they may all score basic, but at least we know where they stand, and we can see that. So then we have the ability to track it across time, and we can also make suggestions for continuous improvement and understand what insights are driving those decisions. And we also want to make sure that the farmer is aware. So when we are in a partner situation and we're collecting data such as this, every farmer not only knows how they benchmark back to the SOA standard, we can benchmark them to their peers, and we can highlight where they're leading and validate that with the scoring. We can also show where they're lagging their peers and give continuous improvement examples and suggestions on what their peers are doing that they are not. So the goal here is to ground ourselves not just in yield, but other things outside of yield, measure practices, measure farm management decisions, and make sure that we are moving the overall peg forward. Because like I said at the very beginning of the talk, These things aren't going away. They tend to be growing. The need for data is growing, and here's one more way for growers to measure outcomes and understanding outside of yield. One last quick little plug to some updated functionality for Cropwise Sustainability. So we've recently added crop level cool farm tool assessment. So this is a crop level greenhouse gas assessment within the tool. So for anybody that's downloaded it and they've actually run the SOA assessment already, there's 3 more additional clicks to unlock a crop level carbon score. So this is via Cool Farm Alliance's Cool Farm tool. And the best way to describe it is for somebody that doesn't know what their farm is doing, this is a quick way to hit the dartboard with a very fast and easy greenhouse gas assessment. Now, if you need it more deliberate than that, you need it to hit the bullseye, not just the dartboard. Well, let's talk, because we've got other tools to measure farm level, or sorry, field level needs. And but this one now has a functionality to hit at a farm or a crop level with carbon. So we did talk about the high level need, where ag's going. We did dive into Syngenta and our new sustainability priorities, and then eventually worked our way to how Syngenta is putting focus on products, services, and data to support farmers into this new era of regenerative ag. And so we talked about Cropwise Sustainability, and one way to capture data. I'm going to pass it over to Parker Frew. Now, Parker works for Delta F.A.R.M. He is a program manager, and he runs up and down the Mississippi Delta region, working with producers to address conservation concerns, with also a focus on not reducing profitability. So we'll pass it over to Parker. Give us a view of Delta F.A.R.M. and what they're doing to implement these types of initiatives.
Thank you, Trent. I appreciate that. I like that tool, and I think that's something a lot of farmers can really start utilizing and, take advantage of. Kind of reminds me a lot of the early days of Delta F.A.R.M. and kind of what we strive for as well. But so today I'm going to give you kind of a 1,000-foot view of Delta F.A.R.M. and kind of who we are, what we do, and why we think we're special to our area.
Parker, I want to just jump in real quick. We're still seeing your desktop.
Okay, hold on just a second. All right, here we go. Which screen are we on now, presenter?
So I can see the I can see your presentation and your the sort of presenter notes. Yep.
Okay. Which one are we back to now?
I'm still seeing the screen and the notes and sort of next slide. Which we can go with that if you want, or we can
just click the
let's get this right real fast. Running multiple screens has got it all messed up. Let's see. Let's try that screen. There we go. Which one are y'all seeing?
There
now?
we go. We got it. Nice.
Okay, good deal. Let me pull that over and get it back straight, and we'll get going. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, my name is Parker Frew. I'm the program manager for Delta F.A.R.M. Been here around 5 years now. I was previously with NRCS before this. Served as a soil conservationist. Went to school right here in the Delta, grew up here in the Delta, received my degree from Delta State University in environmental science and wildlife management. Transitioned over to this role as program manager at Delta F.A.R.M. to kind of head our sustainability sector, run our cover crop trials, our water quality trials, our sedimentation projects, and kind of, work in the whole sector of, farming for the future and taking care of the resources that we have. as of today. We're located right here in Stoneville, right here by the Mississippi State University campus. So we're going to kind of start out by talking about the beginning of Delta F.A.R.M. Why was this even a thought? You know, why was this a need? You know, what group of farmers kind of led the movement and kind of came up with the idea? After the thought of Delta F.A.R.M., what was the correct structure? Was this going to be a business? Was this going to be a board? Was this going to be a committee? How was this all going to work? And how was this going to represent the people themselves well in the way that they needed it to? And we're going to talk about the launch, you know, kind of when Delta F.A.R.M. got started, how it got started, and kind of the pace at which it took off. Then we'll kind of jump into more of my role, Delta F.A.R.M. for today. Kind of a lot of our projects, what we have going on, kind of how we collect data, a lot like Trent was showing, and kind of how we represent the farmer on Capitol Hill and, you know, protect our resources here in the Delta, specifically in the Delta. And then kind of, again, some BMPs for the future, some project stuff that we have going on, research trials, implementation, education and outreach, the whole 9 yards. Again, this is the where, when, why, and how of Delta F.A.R.M. Sort of the 1,000-foot view again, but, you know, why was this a need? Where were we going to represent? And kind of how were we going to represent the Delta and the resources that we have here? So originally, back in the mid-90s, a group of farmers got together. They were originally tied to the Delta Council umbrella kind of here in the same roof in the same building. And they noticed that with all the technology and innovation coming into farming and everything kind of blowing up, that, you know, there was a need to really look at the resource, look at the landscape, and understand how it was changing. I like this picture here, you know, because that's kind of back in the era of when Delta F.A.R.M. was starting. You know, early tillage style equipment, you know, was advancing, becoming more readily available. You know, irrigation was advancing, the whole 9 yards. But this group of farmers got together and decided that they were going to run a pilot project. And we'll kind of talk about that pilot project a little more here in just a little bit. But they got together. They wanted to find the correct representation for themselves, for the communities, for the farmers, and for everybody that it was going to impact. So one thing real fast, Delta F.A.R.M. stands for Delta Farmers Advocating Resource Management. Represents landowners, farmers, producers, business owners, the whole 9 yards of agriculture here in the Delta. Delta F.A.R.M. is specific to the 19 counties in Mississippi Delta. We do not work out in Arkansas. We do not work in Tennessee, Alabama. We're specific to our area because of its complexity and diversity compared to everywhere else. Our climate varies, our soil types vary, rainfall varies, you know, everything that can grow or can affect a crop differentiates itself here. So we have some of the best soils on the face of the earth, but we know that we have to protect them in order for them to be here for the long-term time. Like I said, Delta F.A.R.M. launched a pilot project in the early to mid-90s. Kind of started forming what they call their board and kind of their advisors. The main thing that they wanted was to be represented in the right way. They knew that they were doing good, and they knew that they were trying to be conservationists and stewards of the land, but they wanted someone who could represent them as well as help them. You know, kind of help people understand that the Delta is a lot different. It's one of the greatest places ever on the face of the earth for row crop and agriculture, but like I've said many times, it's a lot different. It's one of the flattest places on earth with, you know, the most diverse soils ever, a lot of drainage differentiation, erosion differentiation, a lot of different things that are specific to this area. One thing about the Delta is you can be talking about the Delta and flat irrigated land and go 20 miles to the west or 20 miles to the east, and it may change drastically in elevation, soil type, farm, crop, everything as soon as you step into the foothills. Like our second little bullet point says, advancements were rapidly changing. Equipment was changing, seed was changing, chemical was changing, the technology, everything around farming was changing, and it was really starting to boom and take off. We knew that there was a lot of good agencies and organizations out there that were representing the Delta already, but they weren't really specific to the landowner or the producer or the farmer themselves. We needed almost like a one-on-one classroom style approach that we could really nail down and understand what was going on the landscape and how it was going to look in 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years from now. Early on, one of the main reasons Delta F.A.R.M was able to take off and be so successful was through the cooperation of two extremely important partners. We still partner with NRCS and MDQ every single day. I would say 60 to 70% of our projects are through these two organizations right here, or these agencies. NRCS stepped in as a partner, agreed that the motive was good, and they wanted to be a part of this movement. MDQ as well, like I said, with tillage equipment changing, chemicals changing, things coming more readily available, more known and more accepted, sedimentation was a big problem. Runoff, the whole 9 yards, water quality. So MDQ was extremely helpful in the implementation and launch of Delta F.A.R.M. One thing I like to kind of pound the nail on a lot is kind of why Delta F.A.R.M is structured a certain way and why that's so important. A group of farmers starting out together, they weren't sure which way it needed to go. They know that it was not something they wanted to make a business out of. They just wanted representation. They wanted their voice to be heard and the help to be there if they need it. So we're going to go into kind of, you hear this term 501c3 nonprofit all the time. And initially, I kind of understood 501c3s and nonprofits and all, but the more you dive into it, you understand why it's so important for this to be structured this way. There will be no financial gains from a 501c3 profit to an organizer or a board member or anything. It is all basically out of the goodness of their heart and the willingness to help the landscape or help whatever they're trying to improve. Like it says, founders may serve on the organization's board, but they own no part of it. There's constant transition, there's constant election and positions changing to ensure that it operates like a well-oiled machine and it stays on the right path and achieves its original goal throughout the whole process. So this is me and one of my farmers out in the field right here, and just kind of an example of what Delta F.A.R.M does. This particular farmer approached me early on in my career. He was, 100% heavy conventional tillage. Kind of the same way mom and pop had ran the farm and grandpa had ran the farm. It was kind of not a lot had changed, and he had a lot of problems going on. Yield was still very high because of the good soil types, but he knew that he was losing a lot of topsoil every single year, and that he was, having a lot of sandblasting and problems just because of the scorched earth effect from chemicals and heavy tillage. So it was probably a 3 to 4 year process with him. We sat down, we identified, okay, we've got to back off on tillage a little bit. We've got to kind of get some things under control and kind of look at what our options are. Delta F.A.R.M is 100% a free service. that you can sign up for. So this particular producer had no financial loss in this. I was readily available for him to give advice, provide resources, whatever he needed. In a matter of about 3 years, we drastically reduced erosion. We started building fertility up on this particular farm, and in a short amount of time, we saw the highest yields I'd ever seen in my career. So he was able to get that from Delta F.A.R.M and our services 100% free. He was hooked up with the right resources. You know, he was able to get things like seed and pipes and other things from our sponsors or partnering agencies 100% free through us. No money exchange whatsoever. And again, I always like to emphasize our partnerships. You know, today we're brought here by Syngenta and CTIC. That's just two of our partners that we've been in conjunction with for years and years and years. If I had to put all of our partners and organizations and sponsors on the screen, I would be forgetting somebody. But our partnerships are kind of the leg that we stand on, how we represent people, who we've got behind us, who we have as our resources, and how it can all work out. Starting out, this kind of goes back a little bit to the beginning. There was over 100 individuals sitting at the table, all with the same plan and the same goals when Delta F.A.R.M was brought up. It was 21 private, state, and federal agencies. Again, that's people like EPA Gulf of Mexico, NRCS, EPA, MDEQ, all of the agencies that you're used to working with as a farmer, but you may not necessarily know how they work or what kind of resources they have available. Everybody had the same goal in mind and wanted to achieve the same outcome. They knew that the Delta was a very valuable asset that we needed to protect at all costs. Again, team goals, the same object, the same objective, and the same goal. A little timeline, we've kind of gone through this already, but in 1997, the pilot program started. The main goal was to go out before they hired anybody for Delta F.A.R.M, before they really made anything official. They wanted to see how long it would take to enroll 100,000 acres into the Delta F.A.R.M program. They weren't sure if it would take a year, a couple years, 10 years. In a matter of about 3 months, they had 160,000 acres enrolled immediately. So they knew that it was going to be more successful than they had thought. They knew that they had a lot of people behind them and that this was extremely possible and it was ready to be done. There we are, our enrollment of 160,000 acres, the official launch, when the 501c3 was established, when Delta F.A.R.M essentially opened their doors, was in 1998. In 10 years, Delta F.A.R.M was able to enroll 1 million acres across the Delta. Again, we're talking about 19 counties here. We're not talking about, this whole Southeast. We're literally talking about a small portion of the state. Although this portion makes up most of its agriculture and farming, it still is not the largest area in the world. So 1 million acres was essentially a third of the Delta in 10 years, right off the bat. 2018, we approached around that 2 million acre enrolled mark. We consistently report on and receive data for about 1.5 million acres now. The Delta's changed a lot, but I truly think that Delta F.A.R.M and its partners have had a lasting impact on the Delta and will continue to. Then we kind of get into what I do on a day-to-day basis. What is Delta F.A.R.M today? What is going on? What kind of programs are out there? How can Delta F.A.R.M help me as a farmer, or me as a producer or landowner? Kind of what is the future and how are things looking for where we need to be headed? Again, there's a lot of parameters that we report on, a lot of goals that we have. Just about any buzzword you can think on, we have a project or a goal or initiative for that. But a lot of our main things are soil health, water quality, and sustainability. Again, I kind of run our sustainability sector. A lot of that is fairly new, within the last 10 years for the entire world, but it's drastically growing, as you've seen already. Want to represent the farmer well, understand kind of how they operate and how they work. Community protection, how do we protect the people that aren't necessarily on the farm, mostly relating to water quality and soil health and kind of the advancement of the resources that are around them every single day. And then environmental safeguard. We have to protect what protects us, take care of the land around us, and understand that it is a gift and we need to keep it here as long as we can. This is a little bit about our partners and kind of what we have going on right now. Again, soil health, huge topic for us. I would say that's over half of what we do is soil health improvements or soil health projects, studying how we can improve soil health here in the Delta. Two of our big partners for that are NRCS and the Soil Health Institute. We've worked with them for years and years and years, have multiple projects that cover the entire Delta from top to bottom. Soil Health Institute's been a great partner of ours. They let us represent them and basically allow us to give farmers access to me and my phone or my office and my resources whenever they need it. If I cannot find the answer to your problem amongst all of these agencies, amongst all of these organizations, and amongst my grower base, my farmer representation, we can find somebody who can address the problem and figure it out. And I know last week y'all had presentation with USA Rice. That's an example of a program like we would go out and sign people up for. Our Climate Smart Commodities project is something that we would go out similar to what NRCS would do and help them enroll and give them the right access and the right information on how to get involved, how to have their shot at, improving their land, improving their resources, improving their farming style and the practices going on. Huge shout out to EPA Gulf of Mexico and MDEQ. They are two of our largest partners that really help us do our soil health cover crop minimal tillage trials. Starting in about, I'm going to say 2010, 2012, Delta F.A.R.M really started to lean and look into cover crop and reduced tillage in that whole realm of things. And EPA Gulf of Mexico was one of the first ones behind that to kind of help fund a large scale project where we could have multiple trial fields, multiple landowners, and thousands of acres across the Delta to study and understand it. And we'll get into that a little bit more here at the end. And then our private partnerships with Syngenta, F.A.R.M, Farmers Grain Terminal. We want to represent them well, give them access to resources here in the Delta, help them understand kind of why we differentiate so much from the rest of the United States. And this picture right here, I like this one because, upon initial glance, you look at it and there's tillage, there's a tractor. Well, it's actually driving itself. It's fully autonomous. There's nobody in the cab, nothing. So we go from the first tractor and the first piece of equipment we saw in the first couple slides where they were lucky if they had air conditioner, all the way to we have equipment that's practically going to be driving itself here in the next few years. So we have to constantly stay on top of things, understand that the future is now and things are changing rapidly, and we have to protect our resources from that change and understand how that change can help our resources also. One thing that it kind of relates back to what we talked about right before me. Conservation data is extremely important in this world. Once a year, every spring, we send out a personal conservation assessment tool. And you'll see on the little screen and the little phone that's kind of a glimpse of what it looks like when you receive it. It goes out in the mail, it goes out through email, it goes out to all of our members for Delta F.A.R.M. This is a 100% voluntary survey or assessment on the practices and kind of your work you were doing on your farm. We send this out to around 600 producers and landowners here, and it is 4 to 5 pages long, and it covers anything from recycling polypipe, cover crops, to how much food do you leave for wildlife, pollinator habitat, all the way down to, do you recycle used batteries? Do you farm catfish, or how much forest land do you have? It kind of covers the whole basis to give us a snapshot of kind of what our farmers are doing. It helps us track trends. It helps us kind of see where we need to be pushing money towards, or maybe pushing more research towards. But again, it's 100% voluntary, and it is 100% classified as private data. We do not use a farmer's name or their address or personal data about them, when we represent. We represent as a whole the entire Delta and all of our participants. It is a very secure way to not only stay signed up for Delta F.A.R.M, but to have your voice heard. When our representation and our leadership stands on Capitol Hill and says, look, the Delta is doing more than what seems to be seen, our farmers are leading conservation. They understand the critical aspects of maintaining the resource. And this is one of our flagship programs right here that we take a lot of pride in. And again, that's just the 1,000-foot view of Delta F.A.R.M and kind of what we have going on. I encourage you to visit our website. If you're a landowner, if you're a producer, it is 100% free to sign up. We have resources for every single person, from an acre up to 1,000 acres or even bigger. And I want to thank CTIC and Syngenta for this. Thank you for considering us and keeping us as a partner. And I hope the tour turns out well.
Thank you so much, Parker, Trent, and Mary Sutton. Thank you all for your time. We've been monitoring the chat and questions. We still have a few minutes while folks are thinking of that, and feel free to drop them in. I want to turn it over to my colleague, Callie North, for an exciting announcement for everybody that has participated.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate it. At the end of this webinar today, you will get an email. We'll have the recording to the webinar linked, and then you'll also receive a $50 off coupon to join us in Arkansas for the tour. So we're really excited to be there. You can come and you can join Ryan and I, Mary Sutton and Trent, and see what we'll be visiting. We do have a quick question in my chat for Trent and Parker. Or no, this is for Trent. So Trent, I hope you're ready. Can you provide some examples of how Cropwise Sustainability is currently being used, and whether you have been able to see increased adoption of practices over time with those using the tool?
Yeah, great question. I'll try to be quick. A very recent and public. So if you go Google the Potato Sustainability Alliance, PSA, they recently used Cropwise Sustainability, and they were actually able to access over 40% of the acres in North America for their potato constituents. So the PSA is actually a broad array of the industry there. So everything from growers to grower associations, processors, downstream players as well. And we were really tickled that they took on our tool, and they're showing how to put it to work. So if you go look at their annual report, which is public, it's on their website, that was all used with Cropwise Sustainability in play. And hopefully they don't mind me bringing up their pushing people to their website.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Trent. So that's the only question I have sent in from the crowd right now. Parker, Ryan, Trent, Mary Sutton, do you have anything to add?
I just hope that folks register for the tour if you're not already registered, and really looking forward to getting down there and seeing everybody there. Thank you for joining folks today.
I would echo that. Have a wonderful Memorial Day holiday weekend. Look forward to seeing you in Memphis, June 10th. If you're not there, you might have the blues. We're going to listen to some great blues at BB King's that night, and get on some phenomenal farms all day Tuesday, the 11th.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.